Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome. So this is a video where we will dive into dreams that are in the Bible and getting to know and understand what the dreams mean, what they are, and also a way to understand the nature of God so we can better understand our own dreams. So today we are going to go into another dream. This time it is God appearing to a king. Fun fact, God appeared to 6 kings in total through dreams, and some of them were not worshippers of God. They were heathens, or you can call them pagans. But God still came to them in dream and gave them a message that they needed to know. So the first king that he approaches is King Abimelech, who we are going to look into today. And this is in Genesis 20. So we're still in Genesis. If you have your Bibles, take them out and we'll read Genesis 20, verses 3 to 7. After we read the Bible, the verse that's after reading about the dream, we are going to go into a context summary so we understand what is going on in the story related to the dream, and then we will dive into the dream. So let's get to Genesis 20, verse 3 to 7. Now the screen on the screen, I'll have it on in NIV, but I'm reading from the Amplified version. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said, "Behold, you are dead man because of the woman whom you have taken as your own, for she is a man's wife." But Abimelech had not come near her, so he said, "Lord, will you slay a people who are just and innocent? Did not the man tell me she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. In integrity of heart and innocency of hands, I have done this." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this in the integrity of your heart, for it was I who kept you back and spared you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not give you occasion to touch her. So now restore to the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not restore her to him, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours." So that is a dream that God, came to Abimelech. And this dream is categorized as a warning dream. If you haven't seen my previous video that I posted, I give 6 different types of dreams you can receive from God. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's a general, common list that most of us will receive from God. And one of them is warnings. And I actually give a quick description of how you can tell which one is which. If you haven't seen that video, you can check it out. I will put the link in the description box so you can go back and check out that video. So now that we have gone through that dream, we are going to go into the context summary so that we can fully understand why God is coming to Abimelech. Just for you, in case you haven't read, this part of the Bible, if you haven't read the story about Abraham. So I'm going to read from a notes because I'm going to make sure that I don't miss out anything. Okay, so after the dramatic events of the previous chapters, Abraham moves from south of Gaza to Gerar. As he did in Egypt, he claims that his wife is his sister. So before this, he did the same thing before when he was in Egypt, and he lied to Pharaoh and said that, Sarah is his sister, which is a half-truth. Abraham told Sarah before they went on their journey that, hey, before, as we go on our journey, so that we don't get killed or attacked because you are a beautiful woman, you have to lie that you are my sister, which is a half truth because they have, she's a half sister. And you can see this in Genesis 12. So they had already planned this, and it's really odd that even after Pharaoh rebuked him, and God actually came to Pharaoh and scared him into giving Sarah back, and Pharaoh rebuked Abraham, he does this again with King Abimelech. So it shows that still Abraham does not have that faith yet, and is still in fear, and does not fully trust God in what he's trying to do for him and give him the promise. And if you haven't seen the other video I did about God coming to Abraham and sealing the covenant and reassuring him of the promise, I'll link that video too, so that you can see those events of how he lied and how God sealed the promise for him before this happened. The king of Ger, Abimelech, takes Sarah as his wife, but is soon struck ill and never approaches her. The Lord offers to spare Abimelech and his household if he will return Sarah and if Abraham will pray for them. Sarah is returned, all are healed, including all the women who have been unable to bear children. In the following chapter, Sarah herself will finally bear Abraham a son, an outcome God safeguards through his actions in this chapter. So it's talking about in this chapter, chapter 20. Okay, so that is the context. So you can understand like what is going on, why God gave him the dream, and what happens after. So now we're going to go into interpreting the dream, diving into the dream and understanding and trying to understand why God came to Abimelech this way, to a heathen, someone who did not even worship God. Okay, so like I said before, this is a warning dream. The beginning of the dream, it says, behold, you are a dead man because of the woman you have taken as your own, for she is a man's wife. So this may sound really drastic and really dramatic, as in like, why would God want to kill him for something that he did not plan to do, because he was deceived and lied to by Abraham. And something important was concerned. Like I mentioned in my last video, that, when God came to Abraham in the dream / vision, okay, most people say that it's a vision. I think it was a dream where he walked through the half cut animals that Abraham cut as a sacrifice, as a covenant ceremony, because he asked him, okay, how are you going to, because Abraham pressed the Lord and asked him, how is this promise going to come to fruition when I don't have any kids and my wife is barren? And, God walked came into his dream and walked through the animals that he cut in half and told him the land that he was going to inherit, and his generations and the generations to come through his bloodline. And he signed that covenant on his behalf, God, and on Abraham's behalf, meaning that it depended solely on God's actions and his words, his will, for this promise to come in fruition. So it didn't matter whatever Abraham did would not stop God fulfilling, making sure that that promise is fulfilled. So God already knew that Abraham was going to make mistakes, and we're already seeing that he already lied to Pharaoh. Now he's lied to Abimelech, and now for Abimelech to be obedient to God, he had to be drastic. He had to tell him that you're going to be a dead man, because again, who knows, if he had said it in any other way, probably Abimelech would not have said anything. So God had to intervene. Abimelech would have just taken Sarah, slept with her, And then now there would be that doubt of the seed. Suppose Abimelech had taken Sarah and God had not intervened, two seeds would have been at the door to Sarah's womb. And to this day, an element of doubt would cling to the ancestry of our Lord. So it's very important that God intervened. So God was working, making sure that, hey, as even though Abraham may make mistakes, may do actions that are not according to God's plan and his will, God was going to intervene because he wanted to make sure that when Christ comes in the New Testament, that there is no doubt that he is, Lion of Judah, that he comes from the 12 tribes, one of the 12 tribes, which is Judah, through Mary. So he wanted to make sure that everything that happens before that is not compromised. Because Abimelech's heart was right in his regard, God kept him from worse sin. So he made him ill because he said that, yes, I know you did that out of, you're innocent. You were deceived, you're lied to. And that's why I gave you the illness so that you would not, sleep with Sarah and, plant your seed in her. So God, and then he also made the woman in King Abimelech's house barren. So this also showed King Abimelech that God was serious. Like, if you're going to take this woman, not only are you affected, but everybody else in your household is affected. And back then, having women in your household, especially if you're a king or you are someone of a high position, it was really bad to have women that cannot produce kids. Like, having children was a big thing back then. Especially having a son was very important. So God knew what to do so that so that the king could pay attention to heed his warning. God's protecting power can guide even a pagan king. And we also see this in Proverbs 21 verse 1, which says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. Like the rivers of water, he turns it wherever he wishes. So God can work on someone's heart, even if you are not a worshiper, even if you're a non-believer. God can work on someone's heart. And we see this time and time again in the Bible. And then, despite Abraham's failure to really trust God in the situation, God did not abandon him. He would not let Abimelech touch Sarah. Her womb was going to bring forth the son of promise who would eventually bring forth God's Messiah. God would not leave this matter up to man. Like I said, and also like I said in my previous video, he was not going to leave the fulfillment of his promise to man alone. Like God had plans, and he knew what he needed to do. So in chapter 7, you see, he says in the dream, so now restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not restore her to him, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours. So it's important to notice that here, that the Lord actually recognizes Abram as a prophet. And this is while he's sinning and, lying and acting on half obedience because he wasn't supposed to take Lot with him. I mentioned that in my other video, Lot with him on the journey, but God turns all things to good. And then, even though Abraham was in sin, he was still a prophet and a man of powerful prayer. God's mercy did not leave Abraham, even though Abraham didn't trust God the way he should. So, this shows us that prophets do sin. They do make mistakes. They're not perfect. And it's a journey to get to the point of where Abraham ends up being, which is, we know him as the father of nations, the man of great faith. But you will see as you read, especially from Genesis 12 onwards, that it took quite some time for him to have that. But God already saw him as a prophet before he was, before he was worthy for the title. And he's told Abimelech that he is a man of power. So he was already putting Abraham in that position, even with his faults, and showing the king that, Abraham is with the Lord and how much power he has. Um, and this is the second time Abraham is rebuked by a heathen king. It shows it took Abraham some time to become the father of faith, which I just said. And back in Eastern culture, even though they did, kings, some of these kings did not worship God, they did believe that dreams came from God. That's why they did take their dreams seriously. Because some people will be like, okay, how did he know that it was God if he didn't worship God? That's because in their culture, they knew that God, even though they didn't worship God and they worshiped other gods, they knew that God gave them dreams, and it was for a reason, because they didn't just dream all the time. They always knew that there must be a reason that God is giving me a dream, and they would go to people into divination, sorcerers, witches, people that have, that tap into, spiritual stuff through other gods, and they would ask them to interpret their dreams. Um, so that's probably how King Abimelech knew that it was God talking to him and not just some random person talking to him in the dream. God inflicted like illness over King Abimelech, and he made the women barren before he had the dream. And usually, sometimes it happens with warning dreams. I know with me it does. That's how you know that is God, because he will do something um, before the dream, and then actually show you why he did that thing, if that makes sense. Um, like he gave the illness, and then he told him, okay, the reason you weren't able to touch her is because I put an illness on her. So of course, when you're ill, you're not going to lie down with somebody. So I think that was another way that, the king saw like, okay, God is being serious and he is true to his word. And that could probably happen to some of your warning dreams. Like something will happen before, and that the dream will reveal God's intentions and why that happened and what you need to do to prevent further harm to you physically or spiritually, if that makes sense. Um, so now I just want to ask you guys if you have had a warning dream before. It doesn't have to be something where, like as serious as this one, where God is telling you that you're going to die and unless you do this, this, and this. I'm sure there's some people who do get drastic dreams like that, dramatic dreams like that. For me personally, a lot of my warning dreams have been about someone in my life, like someone I'd have to let go in my life because it would hurt me spiritually, and or probably would cause trouble in my life, and take it and probably lead to me pursuing my call or purpose in my life. It'll take a little bit longer than what God has planned. One example I can give is when I had a group of friends that, that I cared really dearly about. But I felt like some actions weren't reciprocated. Some actions that I would do were not reciprocated. And I felt like sometimes it was a lot of one side like one-sidedness, if that's a word, where you feel like you do something, but they wouldn't do the same for you. And you would put in all the effort and they would put very little effort back. So it just seemed all one-sided. Um, and I started to discern that maybe I may need to, like, things were not right. Something was off. Like, I may need to distance myself. But, you start thinking about, okay, you don't want to be alone. You just start thinking about, oh my gosh, it took me so long to actually have friends after going through probably a long period of time of not having, solid friendships, and trying to make friends, especially when you are in adulthood and you are a mother. It becomes more challenging to make friends. So you try, it leads you to hold on to the friendships that you do make, even though they're toxic or they're not good for you, or maybe the season has run out. And these group of friends, I felt like the season was running out. It wasn't supposed to be a long season, was short lived, and I had to accept that. But I couldn't let go. So for me, because we play down our intuition, and our intuition is actually the Lord speaking to us, and giving us discernment. And don't think that you're being too much, or you're being dramatic, or you're being, you over analyzing, or you're just, we always downplay our intuition. Sometimes, you're right. I mean, and sometimes you could be right. You could be a little bit dramatic, or that you're overthinking it, or that it means nothing. But it's also good to confirm with the Lord what you are sensing, what you're discerning, what your intuition is, what your gut is telling you. Is good to ask the Lord. So that is exactly what I did. I asked the Lord, okay, what is their true intentions? What is their heart towards me? Is this a friendship I should continue with, or should I let these people go? And of course, when you have faith and you be expectant and you believe that God will answer you, He will. And He did. He gave me a dream, and He basically, in the dream, I was with the friends, and someone was organizing a party, and the person in it was a mutual acquaintance, and the person invited my friends and myself in the dream. But then my friends actually started organizing like the gift, and other things, and they excluded me out of the whole preparation for the party. And the person who invited us had said, it's okay, you don't have to bring a gift. So I was like, okay, fine. So I don't have to bring. I'm one of those people. If you say don't bring anything, then I feel like you actually mean it, that you don't bring anything, even though I will bring something. But I am not one of those people who will be like, don't bring anything, but I'm actually saying bring something, if you know what I mean. It's like, I don't send mixed messages. Like, if I say don't bring anything, I actually mean it. So this is what happens, that the person's like, don't bring anything. And then long and behold, the party happens, and everybody brings something except for me. I'm embarrassed. My friends, they bring like stuff, they bring gifts as well. And I guess they help to organize the party as well. And, so they look good. And then I was the only one who just did not bring anything. And I was embarrassed. I felt like, you know, left out. And I asked him, like, why didn't you tell me that we were supposed to bring something? Why didn't you uh, coordinate with me as well? Why did you leave me out? And they basically like blew off my question, like they didn't care how I felt. And they just ignored me. And another way you can know, like, what the dream means is how you felt in the dream and how you felt after the dream. And when I woke up, like, I felt like, like, it's hard to say, like, you just feel down and you feel like, wow, that was not something like friends would do, that's like they excluded me. They just left me on, like they didn't care. And they would, do stuff, and they were doing other things without me. Like they just completely shut me out. Now normally somebody would be like, "Ah, that doesn't mean anything. That's just, your mind playing tricks on you. You just, like people would downplay something like that." But the reason I know is because I asked the Lord, and, I have a routine before I go to sleep where I just either read the word or listen to worship music, just so I know that when I go to bed and I dream, I know that I'm going to hear from the Lord, and I set my heart posture expecting to hear from the Lord, expecting to receive from the Lord, and try to keep out any distractions. This is how I prepare myself for dreams from the Lord. So I knew that it was from Him. And this was also a time when God was actually convicting me on other things, uh, which was associated with, that friendship. One of the things is gossip. Like, there's so many. I was doing research yesterday about how many verses there are on gossip, and there is a lot of verses. So God is really speaks strongly about that, and Apostle Paul talks about that too. And one of the Bible verses that I particularly liked about this is Proverbs 11 verse 13 says, "A talebearer reveals secrets, but he who is of a faithful spirit conceals a matter." So as he was showing me this and telling me to leave, to let go of the friendship, he was also telling me, if you want to be effective in the kingdom, you can be two-sided. You can be doing things of the world and also doing things, things of God. Those two do not mix. And, that's also in the word, like you can be lukewarm, and that I'd have to start being bold. And this was a time when, yes, I was getting dreams where the Lord was telling me, to start being bold and to start like taking my relationship with Him seriously. And I couldn't do that if I'm engaging in gossip, talking about people behind their back. And another thing, I wasn't showing a good example of being a friend myself, because I wouldn't, tell them, let them know if they're doing anything wrong, or tell them if they hurt my feelings, or if they did something that offended me. I wouldn't tell them, and I would go ahead and tell like my husband or tell a close friend behind their back. And those are not qualities of, a disciple or a child of God. So God was convicting me of multiple things and telling me that if I want to be effective in the kingdom, I'd have to let go of the friendship, because there's certain things that I was engaging in when I was in that friendship that are not pleasing to God. And so that's how also I knew that was a dream from God and Him answering my question. And it took some time, but I finally did, distance myself from them. And I did started to see changes in me spiritually. I started to grow more and to be more serious about my relationship with Christ. So, yeah, that's how I knew that it was from God. So I hope that wasn't me rambling and that was helpful. Um, Let me know if you guys have had any dreams, warning dreams, maybe something like the one in the Bible, or you've had like mind warnings of like people in your life that you need to let go. There's different type of warning dreams. So let me know if you do. get those type of dreams, or if you've ever had one. Like I said, I've had multiple, and sometimes it is from I first discern it, and then the Lord basically confirms it in my dream. So let me know. Well, maybe you just are clueless like the king, and the God just sends you a dream telling you to rebuking you or start telling you to stop what you're doing, and this is what will happen. Uh, so excuse me. That could be you. So I just want to say thank you for tuning in. If you got this far, thank you for watching. And if you liked this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate the support. And also, when you like this video and comment, it will push this video for other people to see and hopefully learn more about their dreams and better understanding of God, and increase their desire to spend time with the Lord and to spend time reading the Word. I hope that inspired you guys as well by listening to this video. Thank you again, and I'll be back with the next video looking into the next dream. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.